From the savannas to the Singaporization, the unfolding saga of the President William Ruto's vision for Kenya. That is a vision beyond borders. From the rugged landscape of the Rift Valley to the polished corridors of State House in Nairobi, His Excellency William Ruto, the President, who is the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, stands at a pivotal moment in the nation's history. Sworn into office in September 2022, Ruto has charted a bold course, not merely to govern, but to transform Kenya. His manifestos promised an upheaval of old paradigm, uplift the ordinary Kenyan, rekindle economic dynamism, reinvigorate national pride, and most ambitiously steer Kenya towards becoming the first world nation. A Kenya that mirrors the success of Singapore, one island city-state that soared from poverty to prosperity within a generation. Election manifesto, which is a blueprint for transformation. You realize that in 2022 general election, Ruto's United Democratic Alliance, that is UDA, presented a manifesto centered on the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. At its heart was the radical reimagining of Kenya's economic structure by voting away from trickle-down economics towards empowering ordinary individuals and small producers as engines of growth. The manifesto promised 1. Affordable housing for all, which he is working on, universal health care, which we have, revival of the economic through the medium-scale and small-scale enterprises and agriculture, a digital economy and infrastructure build-up, and job creation and youth empowerment. President Ruto framed these pledges not as a mere campaign promises, but as a blueprint for Kenya's next narrative, one that abandons chronic economic stagnation for exponential progress. The Singapore Dream, a vision with a name. Almost since its inception, the Ruto administration has invoked an idea of Kenya as the Singapore of Africa. This phrase is more than hyperbole. It signals Ruto's aspiration for disciplined governance, rapid economic modernization, and a nimble world-class economic that outpaces Kenya's peers. But what does the Singapore Dream mean to the tangible terms? Singapore as a model, context, and controversy. The Singapore's historic rise was fueled by the strategic governance, rule of law and anti-corruption, targeted human capital investment, export-oriented industrialization, world-class infrastructure. For Kenya, this model represents the ultimate aspirational benchmark. Ruto often emphasizes Kenya's potential, insisting that if Singapore and other Asian economies like Malaysia and South Korea could achieve the high income status, so can Kenya, if the nation unites behind disciplined reform and investments. Yet critics and commentators caution that Kenya's larger size, diverse social makeup, and entrenched governance challenges make a literal transplant of Singapore's model unrealistic. However, the metaphor endures as a rallying cry, an ideal against which progress is measured. Housing, that is turning dreams into dwellings. Among the most dramatic policy interventions under the Ruto's agenda is the affordable housing program, a cornerstone of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda that seeks to fundamentally reshape Kenyan urban life and wealth creation. The scale and the drive. The President Ruto's governance has pledged to deliver 200,000 housing units annually, envisioned not merely as shelter but as instruments of economic empowerment. These houses are strategically targeted to: 1. Reduce overcrowding in informal settlements. Create new middle-class communities. 3. Stimulate local jobs and construction and allied sectors. Furthermore, the program aims to transform home ownership dynamics by increasing mortality from a mere 2% of low-income earners towards an inclusive middle-class majority. Mechanisms, that is the housing levy and financing. To fund the initiative, Kenya enacted an Affordable Housing Act which instituted a 1.5 housing levy on salaried individuals, matched by employers. The levy feeds a dedicated pool of funds quickly channeled into housing projects and related infrastructural developments. The government also collaborated with the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, that is KMRC, to expand mortgage access and a crucial step towards lowering borrowing costs and expanding home loans to broader income segments. The results, challenges and momentum. That is, as of 2025, tens of thousands of units are underway across the counties, with the high demand underscored by hundreds of thousands of registrations on platforms by the Boma Yangu Affordable Housing Program, that is Boma Yangu. However, multiple observers and analysts highlight challenges: funding and absorption, which is a lag; construction delays, affordable concerns for the lowest income groups, yet the program's progress remains unmistakable. From the groundbreaking events to in Shauri Moyo to expansions in peri-urban zones, signaling the housing is no longer an abstract promise but a tangible part of Kenya's development trajectory. Another one is health for all, that is the SHA revolution. If housing addresses the right to shelter, then healthcare stands as a testament to the right to life. Under President Ruto's Kenya witnessed fundamental reconfiguration of the health financing architecture through the creation of the Social Health Authority, that is the SHA, and the introduction of the Taifa Care, a universal health coverage program. From NHIF to SHA, a bold structural shift. SHA emerged as a successor to the long criticized National Hospital Insurance Fund, that is NHIF, with the sweeping reforms aimed at reducing corruption and expanding access. Ruto, who is our president, pledged that the pitfalls of NHIF, fraud, limited reach, and inefficiency will not be replicated under the SHA. Under this new regime, SHA undertakes digitized processes to avoid fraud. Premiums are more equitable and stable. Claims, submissions, and reimbursements are streamlined. Focus on the equity and universality rather than segmented coverage. Universal health with the Taifa Care. The Taifa Care program operationalizes SHA's mission, ensure that every Kenyan can seek treatment regardless of their ability to pay. The president has framed it as a foundational and eliminating health-related poverty and boosting the national productivity. By late 2025, the official figures suggested that 27 million Kenyans were registered under SHA, and the system had begun paying claims across thousands of facilities, a dramatic increase from the NHIF coverage levels. Beyond mere coverage, the government has also implemented a sponsor-based model where vulnerable households, e.g. the orphans, elders, those in extreme poverty, receive fully funded SHA coverage, in many cases free at the point of service. This is not simply an insurance switch, it is a national health transformation, one that aspires to make sick Kenyans into healthy, productive citizens rather than debt-burdened patients. Beyond housing and health, the pulse of national transformation. President Ruto's manifesto and policy frameworks view housing and health not as an isolated sector, but as pillars within the broader development tapestry that also includes 1. Agriculture revitalization, small-scale and middle-scale entrepreneurship, empowerment, digital infrastructure, that is the digital superhighway, energy expansion and industrialization. These components often woven into a better, that is the bottom-up economic transformation agenda narrative, are central to actualizing a Kenya that is competitive globally, not by intimidation, but by strategic calibration of local strengths. Notably, Ruto has outlined ambitious resource mobilization plans, including assets divestiture and capital market depth enhancement, to raise substantial funds targeting to 5 trillion for development without excessive borrowing and fiscal instability. Kenyans, these funds are intended to underpin the new infrastructure, educational reforms, healthcare system strengthening, industrial corridors and exports. This financial strategy, if successfully executed, could redefine how Kenya funds and its aspiration, shifting from debt dependency towards self-generated capital growth. No major transformation agenda is without contention. Praises and visible gains. Supporters highlight expanded access to healthcare, a clear trajectory of home ownership, a macroeconomic stability gains reported, e.g. inflation moderation, youth job group opportunities through housing construction. For many Kenyans, these changes are life-altering: a new home, better health cover, and a sense that the state is investing in human dignity. Critics and legitimate concerns. 1. Criticism comes from multiple angles. Some argue that SHA's benefits do not align perfectly with the premiums. Others note that slow housing delivery versus the scale of the need. Fiscal transparency and levies remain debated. Skeptics question whether the Singapore, like Kenya, is realistic. These debates are vital. They sharpen governance, reinforce civic accountability, and ensure that lofty visions remain grounded in every realities. The long road from vision to reality. Today, Kenya stands at a threshold. President William Ruto's manifesto and subsequent policy implementation portray an ambitious national project, one that marries deep structural reform with aspirational development narratives. Whether the Kenya of tomorrow resembles Singapore in prosperity, discipline, and innovation remains a long-term question, but the direction is unmistakable. Transformation is underway. What is no longer debatable is this: Kenya has begun to rewrite its development story from fragmented aspirations towards coherent ambitions. In housing, health, economic infrastructure, and social empowering, the country is not merely dreaming. It is converting dreams into blueprints, blueprints into policies, and policies into bricks, mortars, clinics, and life chances. The Singapore dream, therefore, may not be the carbon copy, but as President Ruto likes to say, dreams only tarry where courage meets commitment. In that crucible, Kenya aspires to rise, not just as an African giant, but as a nation that redefines what is possible in the 21st century.